can't actually remember. I think it was in 1998. I spent 4 months in a monastery in Spain, a Buddhist monastery, trying to get enlightened, and I don't think it worked out. I don't feel enlightened anyway, but and I had some sort of psychic explosion when I got back to London, and I was reading a lot of Jung, and that's when I started paying attention to dreams, so it all got mixed up together. I had a dream, it was down there, Piccadilly Circus. Al Bowley appeared to me. I can still see it actually, sort of slightly hovering above my head. Didn't really say anything, but I got a strong feeling that it was something significant going on. I had another strong dream where the actress Tracy Weld appeared, and I've got no idea what that was about. I had seen The Cincinnati Kid in the previous 2 weeks, and so I took it as a sign that I should form this thing called Tuesday Weld and make music which sounded like old-fashioned music. It's just one of those eras, I think, somehow, the 30s and 40s. I like that otherworldly, haunted sound.
The light through the tree takes you back somewhere you've been.
You've still got something of that era in London. And that's how it started, and so we kind of went on from there. Met Tracy because I read a story about her in Time Out.
It was a feature on Dreamy Records, but when I read it, it was actually more about me. Stephen from The Real Tuesday Weld read that article and got in touch with me and said, I like the way you sound. I wonder if you'll like the way I sound. And he sent me this record, and he was a little bit, he was actually a little bit cocky. Like I was definitely going to be in love with it. First song that I heard was I Love the Rain. And I put his record on kind of half expecting that it was going to be rubbish. And it was great. And I loved it, and I listened to it over and over again. And I played it to everybody that came into my house. It was just one CD, one song. Wow. I was just amazed, at what this sounded like, because it was like so old yet so new.
It's raining, it's pouring, but I ain't complaining, 'cause I love the rain. It's raining, it's pouring, but I ain't complaining, 'cause I love the rain.
What happened next? Oh yeah, then my old friend Glenn Duncan, who's a writer, he comes from the same town as me. He came back from America, and he was sharing my flat, and he did a psychic explosion as well. And I was making a new record, and he was writing a new book, and he wrote the book I, Lucifer, which is an autobiography of the devil, who's in a flat in Clerkenwell, given one more chance to get his act together. And we decided in the pub one night, as you do, that it would be interesting to do a soundtrack to this book.
It's a strange thing. I mean, Stephen and I had never actually worked creatively on anything. I suspect because deep down both of us knew that each of us was too much of a control freak to tolerate the involvement of anybody else. Through talking about the book with Stephen, and he was reading parts of it in progress and all the rest of it, he took the aspect of the book which is the story of the oldest romantic breakup in history between God and the devil, and created a bunch of songs which could be read as love songs, but with the added kind of bonus that if you knew the book and you knew the underlying theme, you could also read it as this biblical breakup.
Well, after all that we've been through, would you still call this love, baby? 'Cause love's the only proof that the ugly can be beautiful.
band started off with just me and Jacques and David Guez, who's gone to France now, he's left.
The Real Tuesday Weld has changed quite a bit since I've been playing with Stephen and others. 3.5 years ago, it was myself and Stephen and a guitarist called David, who has now left us, has gone on to carve out his own career, and I wish him all the best. We had some great times, we had some funny times, we had some trying times. Clive Painter took on David Guez's role as lead guitarist, and he's a smashing chap, he is too.
My name's Clive Painter. These days I'm the guitarist in the band, but I also do quite a few technical things as well.
Well, Clive's a great guitar player, but he's also good at engineering and stuff like that, isn't he?
He's got a disability, which for most people will be quite difficult, but if you're an engineer, it's quite good because it's got 3 arms.
I've been dreaming of you all the night through, and the summer sunshine found me still sleeping and dreaming of you.
Clive Painter is the technical man of the band. He really sorts out all the recordings.
Clive's very genial. Reminds me of the TV programme called How. The panel of experts always had the answer. Clive's a little bit like that. You can kind of ask him anything and he always seems to know the answer.
He's the electronics whiz kid. I mean, he is University Challenge with a beard. He knows everything, and he's a good laugh.
There's something of the British Air Force Spitfire pilot about Clive. He's a gentleman through and through. Likes to play fair, likes to see fair play made. It's the only way. And he's a wonderful guitarist too.
Testing, testing, testes, testing. Perfect.
My name is Jacques Van Rijn. I'm the clarinetist with the Real Tuesday Weld. I do some backing vocals. I try to stop Stephen falling over on stage. The first time I met Stephen Coates, I was naked backstage at a cabaret.
I've got this friend, Sophie Seashell, who's the manager of the Tiger Lilies. She also performs herself as a cabaret artiste. And I got this phone call from her one day. She's French, I can't actually do her accent, but she said, "Stephen, will you be my Jesus?" And it turned out that she was doing a cabaret performance that evening where she was Mary Magdalene, and this was going to be the devil and Jesus, and she'd written this song, and it was all weird, twisted stuff, you know, as usual. So I said, no. And then, you know, I was wandering around later on and thinking, oh God, you know, it's one of those things, you think, God, you know, you've got to, you know, you can't say no to things, you know, blah, 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 you've got to do stuff, you know. So I rang her back and said, all right. So I went to this club in Islington, and she was there in the dressing room wearing nothing but 3 seashells. And there was a guy in there with her naked, right? And I was like, what the fuck's this? It's like,
It was quite an honest way of meeting someone when being naked. You know, there's not a lot you can hide, is there?
It's rather awkward, actually.
You know, what do you say about Jacques? He's Jacques. He's a hedonist. I think I'm envious of the way he lives his life and his energy.
He's just got such a natural musicianship. Everything he does with a kind of real assurance and confidence without any kind of overstepping the mark.
Yeah, my name's Jed Woodhouse. I am the drummer and percussionist with the Real Tuesday Weld.
He is an old friend of mine and Glenn's from the north.
Jed and Stephen have been best friends since they were kids, and Jed's just the most laid back, the most laid back guy I've ever met in my life. Yeah, he's just completely content, and I think he's comfortable in his own skin, like nobody I've ever seen.
What am I thinking I'm feeling when I'm playing live? Or what's going on in my head? Well, that's kind of an interesting question, because I'm really not sure what's going on in my head a lot of the time when I'm not involved in the band or doing anything. It's all a bit mysterious to me, to be honest. I've no idea.
He's a marvellous man. He's good fun. Sometimes he reminds us of Beaker from the Muppets. He's got a certain charm.
My name is Don Brosnan. I play bass and do some backing vocals for the Real Tuesday Weld.
We have Don Brosnan from Tucson, Arizona, playing bass guitar.
Describe Donnie as rotund and witty.
We have Don Brosnan. He's a great bass player, and the ladies seem to like him.
Good, very good hair, actually. He's got good hair.
He's got good hair. It's the Don Brosnan hairstyle. I never saw anything like it before I met him, and probably never will again. I always think he should be in Reservoir Dogs. He would have looked so perfect, I think.
When I came over for the first rehearsal, I think Stephen had rung me 3 days before and said, learn these 4 songs because we have a radio show the next week. And all I remember is being extremely nervous, talking a lot, and basically at the end of it saying, yeah, I didn't play that well, I'm not very good, but I've got a good haircut, so that'll get me in the band.
And yeah, I wish I could be as funny as him. He's just a really hilariously funny guy sometimes.
And Jimmy Stewart, where was I last night? Well, let's see, last night was quite an interesting situation. I found myself in the pub, which isn't so interesting on its own. And I had a few pints of the Devil's Buttermilk, which you know is Guinness. Yeah, it's Guinness, don't the Irish make that?
Oh, that was crap.
Crap is what?
What happened when you got home in Sean Connery?
Sean Connery. Yes, last night I went home, cooked some cauliflower and cheese sauce. It's lovely.
That's very similar to your Jimmy Stewart.
Yeah.
I've known Stephen a long time. I actually met Stephen in the Boys Brigade, funnily enough, in Bolton when I was about 7. What they used to do is parade around the streets, but they had drums and bugles. He was on the bugle, I was on the snare drum, and it kind of took off from there, really. I'd forgotten about the Boys Brigade, actually. Fucking Boys Brigade.
He's tall, he's blonde, he's handsome. He's I suppose a quirky sex symbol for this new millennium. He's a crooner. He's a nice guy as well, actually.
Yeah, he's a nice guy.
Why were you circumcised?
I don't know. I wasn't sure if I was going to get on with him when I first met him, but yeah, I like him a lot.
But do you feel insecure because you're circumcised too?
No, he's great. He's quite an interesting character.
He's full of creativity himself, and especially when he's actually on stage, he allows himself to become a persona, and it's quite unpredictable sometimes what he's going to do.
Stephen's always had the knack of cramming an awful lot, both emotionally, imaginatively, psychologically, into a very small lyrical space. Very, very understated and succinct.
I kind of see it as like being in a dysfunctional family, and Stephen's a sort of mad matriarch.
I've generally only lived in Islington, apart from 3 years when I lived in Wapping.
I live in northwest London now.
West London?
South London before it was fashionable.
I've lived in 2 different places in Waterloo.
A hideous housing association block in
North London.
Bounds Green,
Archway.
Stratford.
Clapham.
Clapham?
Clapham.
In a closet in Shepherd's Bush.
That was quite a difficult place to live. Nightmarish.
Well, I living over there in Clerkenwell. It traditionally was an area of the crafts folk, jewellers, clockmakers. Before that there was a priory and a convent there, St John's. It's got quite a lot of religious associations. There's a lot of ancient springs there, so it's probably got some pagan associations as well. It's just one of those places that's got a particular character, and I sort of became absorbed in it somehow, or it became absorbed in me.
Stephen, he's absolutely in love with the city. I think he gets all his energy from London and the history of it. Everything that comes out of our music is influenced from our day-to-day lives living here. And I don't think there's any other place that can have an honest impact on the way we play.
London's a fucking great city, yeah. It's cool. It's all here, isn't it? Whole life is in London. Everything you want is here. Obviously, you know, it's very easy to criticise it. And I could give you quite a long list of things that I find highly irritating about London.
It's become overcrowded, it's more expensive, it's more violent. But people still seem to manage to do things and create things and enjoy themselves. But sometimes I do wish things were back the way they used to be.
I like London when I was in love with you. And the crack dealers and the King's Cross whores could touch me then when, baby, I was yours. Yeah, I like London when I was in love.
We've got a film project on at the moment, which is a little bit of a departure from the usual numbers and smoky nightclubs.
Speaking to the drummer because he's not dressed properly.
Exactly. For the sound check where we're having our pictures taken and being filmed. So that's why I said make sure you wear your suit up.
My jacket up. Don't shoot me from here downwards yet. I know you really want to, but just
I don't think you want to.
We are about to perform our live alternative score for the Hans Richter film Dreams That Money Can Buy. She's interesting, Sibeli. She's a Brazilian musician, electronic sort of ecologist type. Experimental chanteuse, I suppose. She's quite a successful artist. She chooses to live in London because she likes to be here.
Biceps of stainless steel. Last week she was rich and his love for her.
I met Sibeli through David Python. He runs this club on Tuesdays called the Rakehill Revels, I think, at the Café Royal. And I thought of him as the person to narrate sections of the film's dialogue that we were going to remove, and then half of it's a female voice, so I asked him if he knew somebody, and he suggested Sibeli. funny, it's a difficult film, and I always wonder when we start playing it, is that what people are going to make of this, because it's not an easy film, you know. I mean, I know it's not an easy film. You kind of get used to it, and in a way, it's one of those films that you want to put like a caption at the beginning, just saying like, you know, don't try and make sense of this, because I think what everybody does, like I did the first time you see it, is you spend the first third of the film watching it as a movie, trying to make it all work, and actually progressively as the film goes on, it gets weirder, and it doesn't make any sense apart from it makes sort of dream sense, you know, where one thing leads to the next thing, and it does have some sense of overall meaning. So really, in a way, you want to say at the beginning, don't try and make sense of it, just sort of, you know, let it wash over you, and particularly the images. Because I think if you watch it in that spirit, it's actually a really enjoyable film. In a way, the dreams of an incubator is a quite ambitious thing to do, and not very lucrative. I mean, it's a lot of work for not very much money, but we kind of pulled it off, and so I think in a way it's like a CV piece. I'm definitely interested in reaching as many people as possible. Being a household name is neither here nor there in a way, because I mean, Marmite's a household name, right? I mean, some people hate it. The actual idea of everybody knowing who you are, I'm not particularly interested in that per se. I don't know, I never thought we'd I mean, we played at the Horse Hospital like 3 years ago, did 3 songs with an acoustic guitar and Jack playing clarinet, and then you sort of end up playing the Tate Modern. It's amazing. I don't know what happened, something strange went on. Very peculiar.
You know, I always imagine when the world's ended and there's only a handful of people left sort of staggering around the city somewhere, that's kind of the soundtrack that I imagine. You know, there's something very melancholy and post-apocalyptic about it, so that's about as good as it's going to get.